evening. I'm Nidhi Razdan. You're watching Left, Right and Centre. Lots of big news stories breaking at this hour. The first is that 5 people have allegedly been detained or have been detained for allegedly leaking official documents to corporate houses from the oil ministry. The question is, why isn't the government naming the corporates who are involved? Who are these corporate houses that have been benefiting from this espionage? We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Also, more than 700 people are now dead from swine flu across India since January, as more than 11,000 cases have been reported. Has the government been caught napping? Is India really prepared to deal with this outbreak? And the woman in the eye of the storm, Greenpeace's Priya Pillai, joins us in the studio. Has she been unfairly targeted by the government, which says her views on human rights issues abroad are a threat to the nation? But first, the story that's developing as we speak. At least 2 officials of the Petroleum Ministry are among a group of people that have been detained by the Delhi police today for leaking confidential government documents. In fact, as I speak, we're also getting information that among those detained is possibly one journalist as well. The classified information was apparently going to be given to corporate houses and had details of government policies used for pricing as well as imports. Let's first listen into what the Delhi Police Commissioner told reporters a little while ago.
देखिए, एक हमारे पास में इंफॉर्मेशन थी कि कुछ लोग सरकारी दफ्तरों से सरकारी डॉक्यूमेंट्स को अनऑथराइजली फोटोकॉपी करके या चोरी करके वो कुछ गैर सरकारी लोगों को उन डॉक्यूमेंट्स को देते हैं फॉर सम रिवार्ड। तो इस इंफॉर्मेशन को के बेसिस पे एक ट्रैप लगाया गया था शास्त्री भवन में। तो ट्रैप लगाने के बाद में वहाँ पर 3 व्यक्तियों को गिरफ्तार किया गया था। उनसे कुछ सरकारी कागज़ जो उनके पास में नहीं होने चाहिए थे वो मिले थे। उनसे बातचीत की गई। बातचीत के बेसिस पे 2 अन्य व्यक्ति जो उनकी मदद किया करते थे उनको भी डिटेन किया गया है।
Well, let's go across to my colleague Rahul Srivastav, who has more on that big story tonight. Rahul, what more do we know? We're also getting information that one journalist may also have been detained in this. What's this about?
Nidhi, it's almost like a corporate thriller. What we are being told by sources that after the NDA government took over, there was certain amount of suspicion in the ministry, especially with the minister feeling that certain information which should not be there in public domain. In fact, meetings, minutes of meetings which were held within few hours were available, it seems, in public domain. And that is why the minister and senior officials decided some kind of surveillance will be mounted. After initial work by some officials, once government agency was brought in, surveillance was mounted and certain amount of trails started emerging. Once that started coming in, actionable evidence was created. And once actionable evidence was created, the Delhi police was asked to create a trap. And what it seems that junior level officials, or say what can say junior level government servants, were part of this. They may not have a direct access to the files in terms they don't handle the files, but they may be part of the transit of files between room to room and officials to official and minister to official. What is alarming in this case is that over the last 9 months, if you see, very crucial decisions have been taken, Nidhi. If you see, the gas pricing issue has been pending for a very long time. That was decided. Diesel deregulation was decided. Oil blocks issue was decided. Now, if subsidies and other issues were being decided, such was the fear of these leaks that meetings were not being held, crucial meetings were not being held inside the ministry. Minutes were being prepared outside so that the leaks will not take place. Given this kind of scenario, the trap was laid. People have been apprehended, and now the government and the agencies are trying to look at whether only middlemen are involved or the chain reaches top corporate houses. What is also interesting
they're
in
not
this case,
naming the corporate houses, are they? That's now the missing link in all of this. We're still trying to get more information on those who've been detained or arrested, but they're not exactly naming which corporate houses are involved, at least not yet. I believe some of them may issue a statement shortly.
Nidhi, what is interesting is that the petroleum sector is not really a mystery. In the petroleum sector, there are so few players that it might not be very difficult for the government to really ascertain where the information was headed. Because usually what the government sources are saying, this information does involve certain middlemen who operate so that it can shield the corporate houses. But since the agency which was involved is well versed with this kind of surveillance, there is certain amount of actionable information with the government and the Delhi police that who all were the actual beneficiaries or the recipients of this information. And that is why just a matter of time that the government will like to get a certain amount of workable evidence, talk to people and then start working on this information.
Right.
What is serious is that also somewhere the government, by acting like this, has sent a warning shot over the shoulders of corporates and those indulging in this kind of activities.
All right, Rahul, just do stay with us. I just want to get a quick comment then from our political panelists on the program this evening who are already here for the rest of our show. Nalin Kohli, spokesperson of the BJP, is here. Dr. Ajay Kumar of the Congress Party and Raghav Chadha of the Aam Aadmi Party. And in fact, Raghav Chadha, one of the first things we saw AAP leaders saying this evening was that in fact the names of the corporate houses involved should be made public right away. But wouldn't you concede that by taking this step, an important step has been taken to plug leaks, and that shows a certain transparency which is which you can't question?
No, certainly certain steps have been taken. The effects and the outcomes of those steps are in front of us today, and we certainly acknowledge that, appreciate that. But the larger question still remains that who is this corporate? As Rahul rightly pointed out, that petroleum in the petroleum sector, there are only a handful of corporates or few influential industrial houses of this country which are involved in this sector. So it should not be extremely difficult to track down which corporate house is behind all this. And as many journalists informally have been naming in the past couple of hours a particular corporate house, if that is the corporate house that those journalists are naming, then I think the Delhi police should make that name public very soon.
All right, Nalin Kohli, quick first comment from you on this.
No, I think the very fact that a trap was laid and there was an apprehension that something like that was going is a clear message that the government was working with a plan. And I think that's worth appreciating. This is just a few hours old. We are not going to be in the business of trying to interfere with any investigation. What needs to be revealed will be revealed. If the trail goes beyond these people, certainly the idea of the government is to reach to that logical end. Otherwise, this trap wouldn't have been laid.
But why not reveal the names?
No, but you need to know it. Investigation has started. Interrogation must be going on even as we speak. So we can't be sitting here and deciding based on our political preferences that we should start naming ABC just because the investigation is in process. We can't vitiate that, nor can we interfere in that. My point is single, that if the action is taken today, which is based on the government realizing that there was something wrong, planning for it, preparing for it, laying a trap and going ahead and detaining someone, then the next logical steps,
that it started with the previous regime. That this has been a practice that has gone on for years.
If it is, then all the more it needs to be appreciated that that practice is being sought to be put to a stop. And that's what is critical.
Okay, let me take that to Dr. Ajay Kumar. Dr. Kumar, that is then the accusation. In fact, I heard the oil minister on one of the channels tonight in one of his sound bites, saying that this is something that actually began under the UPA regime, and that's, what they're seeking to, plug now, to plug those leaks. Your first reaction, your party's first reaction to that?
My first reaction is this government should understand, Nidhi, that they are in the government. They should stop complaining and realize that they are the government and they're accountable. And the other part, which is, which I appreciate what the government has definitely done in terms of laying the trap, but unless, like what Raghav said, was unless they name them and get the investigation in a time-bound manner, it can also become a part of a corporate, rivalry. So it is, and then the government will be open to accusations of, siding with one or, or not siding with the other. So in the interest of the government's own reputation, they should come out with a time-bound program of saying we'll complete this investigation. And by and large, it's not a difficult case, Nidhi. The people who have been arrested would, start talking like a canary. Yeah? So they will be able to immediately identify the people. And this should not take a very long time. I mean, a couple of months should be more than that. So they should give a time-bound response.
It doesn't exactly shine a very flattering light on the UPA government then, does it, Dr. Kumar? That's the point. That, from what I hear, and I'll get Rahul to talk about this as well, apparently this has been a practice for years. It's apparently the most worst-kept secret in Delhi about the way, files and policy papers make their way out of the oil ministry into the hands of corporate houses. So when did that begin? It began under your government.
No. So Nidhi, that's an interesting thing for you to say. It happens. The government security and the way the government files move. I don't think the NDA government can say whether it was Mr. Vajpayee's time or before that. The system in which the files are moved and the open access. It's It's, you don't need to have a, you don't need to have a, what you call a driven government.
May
you
I?
will have lot of files leaking anyway because if the people are compromised and they're,
Nalin,
and
I'll
the
just
file
give you this
security, if you look at any ministry.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
no,
it's a
one
point.
second. I just want to get
the
Rahul
issue-
in on
no,
this.
let me complete, Nidhi.
No, yeah, okay, quickly, yes.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
No, I just want to get Rahul in on this. Rahul, already so much chatter this evening as this story was breaking about how common this practice is. I mean, when does it go back to? Which are the oil ministers that we're talking about? Just how well known was this in Delhi?
Nidhi, what basically sources are saying that this is something which was happening. This is something which the NDA governments, when it came over, it realized that there was something amiss. What they are saying that this is perhaps pertaining to a time when the oil sector was opened up. And that opening up period can be linked to a certain period. But what we can say is that government sources are saying that this is a kind of a leak which the government has been fearing could be there in several other ministries, and the government has been working on it. And it is one minister was telling me that this is one reason why the budget is such a secret exercise, that the gates of the finance ministries are closed to almost everybody, and people who are working on the budget have to spend 10 odd days sleeping in bunkers somewhere in beds which are deep buried under the Raisina hill, and food is served in form of halwa, and they have to stay there. That is the kind of crisis. What the government sources are saying, that so sensitive was the petroleum ministry after the sector was opened up, especially in terms of exploration and others, that at that time that corporate sector started making inroads into the petroleum sector. Also, what is interesting, if you see, both diesel and petroleum deregulated, the kind of pricing which might be happening outside the ambit of the petroleum ministry, that is in petroleum companies, somewhere the government has been keeping an eye on that, whether information is being parted there also.
Yeah,
The third angle also is the journalist part, that websites getting information and news and documents, petroleum ministry. That one angle the government will have to investigate, because journalists do get documents. Journalists do put out documents which might be in the as far as official secrets. One will have to wait and see whether the government charges the people who have been detained with official secrets
and whether
act.
it will be with the Official Secrets Act. Quick last word from Nalin on
Well,
this.
two quick comments. One is, as Rahul said, we have to wait for the investigation to come, and we'll know what will come. The second part is what Dr. Ajay Kumar was saying. I found that interesting. It's an open secret. These things used to happen in any government. The question is, were any steps taken ever to stop the practice? And I think what needs to be appreciated, a step was taken in a sensitive ministry, planned it out. It has taken work to reach this level, and people have been detained.